So good morning. First off, I'd like to thank everybody for taking the morning to spend with us here at Fenway. I'd like to thank Keith Blossom and the Board of Directors, Fenway Golf Club, for hosting us today. Certainly spring has hit our area much earlier than years past. So again, a tough morning to be away, but I think we have a great presentation and very fitting for the beginning of our golf season. Hopefully everybody takes something away that'll help them in the start of their season. Just looking ahead, I just want to make you aware of a couple of other educational opportunities that will be coming up. Next week, on the 23rd, we have the MGA has their annual rules seminar. If you're not signed up for that, great opportunity to catch up on some of the rules changes. And then on April 12th, it's the Met PGA Spring Education Forum. We're very excited this year. We'll have Butch Harmon will be our speaker for the day. Certainly, I think that goes without saying. It'll be a fantastic presentation, and we're very excited to have Butch there, especially right after the Masters. Looking at our program today, our theme today is building successful women's golf and coaching programs. As I mentioned, I think there's something to take away as we start our seasons. I think these are items that can help differentiate your programs from an instructional level, as well as, as we look at clubs and some of the challenges we may face, being able to engage golfers, especially maybe some of the female golfers at our facilities that are not playing golf or have some hesitation in getting involved in golf, bringing them in and making them part of the golf family at your own facility. So as we started to look at this topic, I couldn't think of two better people than Sara Dickson and Kevin Sprecher to talk on this. Sara Dickson is now teaching assistant at Quaker Ridge. She's been involved in many junior and women's programs throughout her career and developing them in quite success in a number of facilities in our area. And Kevin Sprecher is currently the Director of Instruction at Sleepy Hollow Golf Club. Kevin also worked with Jim McLean at his golf school in Miami, is still very active with Jim and their schools, and he's also the regional fitter for Titleist at Sleepy Hollow as well. So at this time, I'm going to turn over to Sara. She's going to begin the presentation, and then we'll take a short break after her presentation, and then we'll have Kevin come on up. So, Sara?
Thank you. So, thanks everyone for being here today. We've got a lot of things working against us. It's going to be 63 degrees and sunny. It's St. Patrick's Day, and your bracket picks are due by noon. So if you haven't done them yet, if you're on your cell phones or iPads, I get it. You have to get your picks in by noon. That's when the games start for March Madness. Anyway, thanks so much for being here. Kevin and I are looking forward to talking about some of our coaching programs today. My part will be specifically on women's golf, and then later Kevin will share with you some of his current coaching ideas and programs as well. So I had to add this in just this morning. Dan called me on my way here, and he's like, Sara, they're going to pass around the MSR sheet, but it's after the 15th, so nothing will count. It doesn't go to your winter credits, so there's no MSR credits today. I'm just kidding. Everyone's face just dropped. I'm totally kidding. You're going to get credits today. We're here to have some fun. My goals are to go over some ways that we can be of more value to our club. Hopefully you get an idea or two about that, plus your points. All right, so women's golf. It can certainly seem like a roller coaster ride. Okay, depending on our experiences, we might have some very different feelings and connotations when it comes to women's golf. I know myself, when I first ran my first Ladies' Day, I think 10 years ago now, I was overwhelmed. I didn't think it could be that hard for a group of women to play golf and have lunch. It sounded really simple. Of course, until the color of napkins became an impossible to solve issue. So I'm not really here to bring attention to those sort of points today. In fact, by the end of today, I hope that we see the women's demographics similarly to the other ones at our club, and we maybe just haven't looked at them quite the same way. So let's talk value quickly. We can make this more of a discussion. What are some ways that women provide value at our clubs? Anyway.
Spend money.
Spend money, bingo. Okay, that's the answer I was actually looking for. So, did a little research when putting this together, and I won't read this verbatim, but women include a high percentage of purchases when they're away from the golf course. So we've got things like groceries, new cars, etc. When we move to the golf course, they only account for about 20% of the spending. So there's this big gap there, okay? And the good news is, it's not that women are not interested in playing golf. So we have this huge opportunity ahead of us. According to the National Golf Foundation, of the interested golfers, so people who have not yet picked up the game but are interested in picking up the game, 42% of them are women. That's a really good sign, okay? So let's just move that to the club level. 100 is a big number, but let's, for ease of numbers, let's say you have 100 current women at your club. And let's say we know, based on that stat above, that we could grow it by about 40%. What that means is, on average, and I bet it's higher in this area, on average, women spend about $950 a year in the golf business. So if we take that number and times it by the potential growth, that's $38,000 more at your club per year. And I bet here in the Met section that could be even higher. Okay, so there's this tremendous opportunity. And when we talk about value, so women provide this amazing buying power. But we as employees, if we can capture some of those interested golfers and turn them into golfers, then we are more valuable to our clubs as well. Okay, so when putting this together, I'm nowhere near an expert on this. There are people in this room with tons of more experience than I have, a lot smarter. But I do know that women's golf is important. And so when going through this, I put together 4 cornerstones that I thought would make up a successful program. And we're going to go through these 4 words. I'll share with you a thought or two I have about clinics that relate to these words, and maybe some ideas that you can bring back to your clubs. Okay, first word, or cornerstone of the successful program, is awareness. If you're tired right now, you can close your eyes, because I'm going to go through a little exercise that demonstrates what I mean by this word, because on paper it just kind of looks simple and really vague. So you can close your eyes if you want. You can just look at this wonderful picture if you choose. You're on vacation. You're in a nice tropical climate. It's your favorite place to go with your family. And you have this week-long vacation planned, but this one day you had to stay back at your condo because you had this one conference call that you had to take. No big deal. So your family goes off on an expedition. You're doing something with the local area. And after they leave, you're getting ready for your call. 10 minutes later, the call is canceled. Something's happened, and there's no conference call. So you're like, oh my goodness, I now have this free day. My family's off doing their thing. I can't catch up to them. What am I going to do? So you look outside, and you see this beautiful view, like some nice sand, blue water, the sun is shining. You see people on the beach, and you notice some people surfing. You're like, that's it. I'm going to go surfing today. I've heard about it from my friends. They love it. I've seen pictures of it in magazines. It looks so cool. I'm going to take this opportunity, have a day to myself. I'm going to go surfing. So get yourself together, go downstairs, about to walk out of your little condo, and your neighbor is like, oh, hey, what are you doing? You're like, oh, my family's off doing this thing. My stuff got canceled, so I'm going to go surfing. And your neighbor is the local guy, so he's like, oh, okay, no worries. I have an extra surfboard. So here you go. So he brings this huge surfboard out of his garage, and he gives it to you. Like, okay, thanks. You're kind of bringing this awkward thing to the beach. You don't know how to carry it. The models in magazines have it on their head, but you just can't manage it. But you get the surfboard to the beach, and it's a little more crowded than you initially expected. You're just trying to find your place of where you're going to sit down and put your stuff. So you find a place. Kind of looking around, make sure you're doing everything like everyone else is. You're like, okay, now's the time that I need to get in the water because I'm going surfing. So take this huge surfboard into the water. The water's a little more chilly than you expected. You're like, do I turn back? No, I'm going surfing. So you walk into the water, and it gets a little easier. You're kind of you're a good swimmer, so you're able to get out past the waves. You're able to sit up on the surfboard, and you see the waves crashing in front of you. You're like, okay, I'm doing this, I'm surfing, this is so much fun. So then you're like, all right, well now I have to catch a wave. So you're kind of watching how everyone else does it. You see the wave coming, you're like, this is my wave, I'm going to catch it. So you start paddling, you think you're on the wave, you just close your eyes, you hang on for dear life, and when you come to, that is what your day is like. So salt water goes up into your face, you can't breathe, you hit the wave face on, head on, your surfboard is going in one direction, you're in the undertow going another direction, and in that moment you have like 10,000 thoughts, and 9,999 of them are, oh my gosh, why did I choose to do this today? This is so embarrassing, get me out of here, okay? Now, I don't think that's much different than the beginner golfer, especially the lady that we're talking about today. Imagine she has a free hour in her day, no kids for an hour. She's near the club. She's like, you know what? I'm going to go to the range. My friends say golf is so much fun. It looks so cool on TV. I'm going to go to the range. So she gets out of her car, takes like the big leather bag, you know, it's like her grandmother's or something. All right, she kind of gets to the club. Little does she know it's like men's member guests or something. So she gets there, she's like, I'd like to go to the range, and it's busy. So you're like, oh yeah, it's just down the cart path on the right, you'll see it, like kind of standard answer. But for her, that's not enough because she's no clue what a cart path is, and she doesn't see any carts on the path. But she makes her way to the range, and she puts down the heavy bag, pulls out like the 3-iron blade, doesn't know otherwise, right? Kind of looking around, how's everybody else doing this? And she's feeling so nervous right now. It's not her cup of tea. But she's like, you know what, it's my free hour, it's a beautiful day, I'm gonna do this. So she's the lady that like turns around and gets the balls from behind her and then puts them down over here. And then she's like, okay, I'm ready to do this. And she like gets in her posture, her swing, swings down, and just toe shanks the ball into the bay next to her. And I feel like it's in that moment when the lady, this one, when there's some good ones of these on the internet, you should look around. Right. So it's in this moment, and it's in that moment when these people are like, why in the world did I choose to do this today? So I'll go back to the pretty picture. So we know women's golf is important, and in this case, it's kind of like, I'm like preaching to the choir here. We understand that there's this group of women who really want to be comfortable at our clubs. But even going through that exercise myself, I was like, oh my gosh, like maybe we do need to take a little bit more extra time with those potential golfers, because to what us, it gets so commonplace. So we're so accustomed to members knowing where everything is, we kind of forget about that demographic that doesn't. So I was looking forward to doing this today. I spoke to a number of my friends. I was like, hey, what do you do at your clubs? Like, what are the best things that you do? So I certainly don't want to share just all of my ideas. And one of the best ones that I ran across takes place at Innis Arden with Gary Murphy and the other assistants, including Jess, who's in the room. So I'm going to go through this quickly, and you can ask Jess for more questions on it. But I really liked it. As you read through these 8 weeks here, what they do is they've designed this program, and can everybody read that okay? They designed this program to literally take a person who may not have ever stepped foot at their club before and prepare them with the knowledge to then go play with the 9-holers. So as you read through this here, you see week 1, they introduce them to the clubhouse. They walk into the golf shop. They say, this is who you're going to see in the golf shop. This is who answers the phone. This is how you make a tee time. This is how you get to the locker room. This is Maria, and this is what she does. Things that, as we get going in our lives, just seem like it's so normal. Okay? I guess they do putting on the first week, and then they sort of work from the green backwards. So chipping, pitching, full swing sand. And then week 6, 7, and 8, what I thought was really, really cool as well, when they introduce the ladies to the course, again, they slow down, they put the brakes on, they say, okay, instead of just like feeding into the wild, we're going to bring you on the course, tell you what the scorecard is for. We'll tell you where the tee markers are. I mean, last year I had a lady ask me, what are the wooden things on the ground? Okay, tee markers. They don't know. How to drive a golf cart. It seems so easy to us. But I think we can all remember our first time in the golf cart. We're like, wait, how does this work again? Where's reverse? What's that? And I think one of the lines, I remember when I was speaking with Jess about this, she said something like, if your cart isn't in a place where there's a cart path, you're in the wrong spot. There's something like that. A curb, right, okay.
You don't drive over any curbs.
Don't drive it, right. So things like that, okay? They continue to go on through different rules, etiquette, different formats of play that the ladies might experience when they play their 9 holes of golf. But I really like this because it's saying you don't need any prior experience. We're going to give you the knowledge to make you feel comfortable. next cornerstone that I thought of when thinking about these programs is communication. So there's a comic up there, and if you can't see it, I'll read it. There's these two girls in the hallway, like high school. Oh man, this is brutal. And they say, I'll read it on the computer. They say, anyway, we better run, bye guys. And then Jeremy, the blonde kid, goes, did you just see that? And his friend says, what? He goes, Sarah and Dijon just compared econ notes, talked about how Brittany's being a jerk, decided what Dijon should wear to her uncle's wedding, found out that they both like the new Liz Fair CD, and agreed to make pajama pants next weekend. He goes, in less than 30 seconds. Then he asks, how? And his friend, best line, his friend goes, they're broadband and we're dial-up, dude. So, I don't think that's far off. And I know it's like a cartoon that you read in the Sunday paper. But what that says to me is like, there is a difference between how men and women communicate. And Kevin and I spoke about this on the phone. I remember when I was driving up here last week. So I did some research on it because I don't know how men communicate. I know how women communicate. So I looked it up, and there were two cool things I want to share with you. So the first one, let's use the example of a problem. Let's say there's some problem in front of us. And in general, of course this is, there's obviously going to be like different people who push things different ways, but in general, a guy will recognize the problem and say, okay, let's solve it. So it's like fairly simple. Problem, solve the problem. Problem, solve the problem. Okay, women, on the other hand, certainly recognize that there's the same problem, but according to research, and it holds true at times, women feel, first off, that it's more important to talk about their feelings about the problem. They might consult in another person and talk to them about their feelings about the problem. See if the other woman has the same feelings about the same problem, and if our feelings differ, is that a problem? Do we have another problem on our hands? So things get a little bit more complex. Right now, I say that jokingly. We all know hundreds of women who solve many, many problems in business and in their homes daily. Okay, but I bring this up because it's something to be aware of. Okay? In general, women have a need to express themselves more often. And so a point that followed that, when I was doing some research, I found out that women, on average, say 13,000 more words a day than men. So I'm like, oh, bingo, that makes sense. They have a need to express themselves more. They're going to talk more. We might see that in the difference in our presentations. But taking that, it's like, okay, well, how can we bring that to the club level? So I think it's really important to incorporate some communication opportunities at the club. So some things that I've seen that worked well include some sort of communication or instruction component at a food and beverage event. Something that I did for a few years during a women's member guest would be that when they came in, they started to sit down, have their lunch, and before we did any of the prizes, the director of golf and I would stand up and we would talk about some sort of instructional topic. Let's say it was putting. And then as the years progressed, it became such a sort of popular thing. All the chair ladies were always big, and you're doing the talk, right? The talk at lunch? Yeah, we're going to do the talk. It actually progressed more into a dialogue. So we almost would start out this lunch by saying, okay, ladies, how was it out there today? Were there any shots that you encountered that were more difficult than you expected? Did you encounter any rules situations you didn't know what to do? And women like to be heard, so nearly every hand in the room went up, and they started yelling, oh, the bunkers, the sand was so hard, or how do you account for this? And we established this discussion. And the feedback from it was that the ladies really liked it, because they were heard, and it was their direct questions that we were answering. It wasn't what we thought was important. Like, I wanted to tell them like how to hit the ball 20 yards further, but they wanted to know where was I supposed to put the rake, okay? So that's a good idea. If you have these sort of tournaments that have sort of a food and beverage component to them afterwards, feel free to include some sort of instruction and then open it up for some questions and answers. It almost got to the point where if we didn't do it, people were really disappointed. So that was a good one. Things to be aware of. I put this up here because when I was right out of college, I held a women's clinic every Saturday morning. It was like 10 a.m. And a handful of ladies would come, and 2 or 3 of them, the first week I remember, they chatted for 45 minutes. Now the clinic was maybe an hour and a half, okay? And I'm thinking to myself, this is the worst clinic ever. This is awful. They're gonna go back home, their husband's gonna be like, hey, what'd you learn? They didn't learn anything because they've literally been talking to themselves for 45 minutes. And I'm like, oh my goodness, like, this is brutal. Wouldn't you know that those same ladies came every single Saturday morning? And they talked, but the talking time got less and less and less, and the golf time got more and more and more. But why I think that was cool is because the social connection that they were able to make with each other sort of bridged the gap between them being non-golfers and golfers. And they would continue, they'd go off to lunch and keep chatting some more. So they had a lot to catch up on. Anyway, I was glad that a clinic was something that got them together. So be aware, I know last year there was this one clinic where there was a new episode of Nashville and it was a hot topic. It was much more important than me talking about hybrids. So in my opinion, it's cool, let them get their socializing out, and then they'll be ready for golf. The last thing up here, when it comes to communication, even if we can't make that personal connection with people all the time, something that I always like to include in an email, this is actually a program that I did in Florida for the winter time. So I'm an independent contractor there, I'm not in the shop, and my main source of communication is email. And I would always say, please let me know if you're coming next week and at what time. And I'd always add in, next week I plan on doing X, whatever it is, short game. And then this is the key sentence. As always, please feel free to email me with your topics and questions as well. So, remember we said that women like to say 13,000 more words a day? I also think they like to type 13,000 more words a day. So I got a lot of emails with a lot of information and recaps of their rounds and whatnot. But it was a good thing because it established this communication. And then when they got to the club, they felt comfortable. And then when they were able to say, okay, I played great, the putting was better, my sand was horrible, I'd respond, okay, I'll make sure at 9:30 we touch on sand. So when they got there at 9:30, they felt valued. We were going to do what they wanted to do. And most of the time, if one of the women would say, oh, I want to work on this, everyone else would be like, oh yeah, that'd be great. So it wasn't overwhelming by any means, but I liked the fact that it opened up a dialogue. Okay, third cornerstone. Call it event integration. So far we've sort of spoken on how do we get this newer or beginner golfer more comfortable. And then when thinking about this, I also thought to myself, there's this whole demographic of lady golfers. They're the ones who show up, every Tuesday morning, they play their 18 holes, they're 25 handicappers, they shoot 95, they have lunch, they're happy as a clam, and they go home. And then they show up the next week. But we're sort of missing out on them when it comes to the instructional realm. So for event integration, first thing I have up here is more for your beginner golfer. But then I'm also going to talk about how do we capture those existing golfers that aren't in our instruction realm at the current time. So bridging the social gap we've already spoken about when it comes to holding events at your club. Let's say you've got an opening day. So April 19th, Women's Opening Day. 18 holers are going to go out at 8 a.m., 9 holers go out at 10 a.m. Why don't we hold a tennis round robin or whatever the tennis people do at the same time, and then all meet up afterwards to give out any prizes and have lunch and whatnot. It's in those moments when you never know if Betsy's going to look across the room and say, oh my gosh, Sally plays golf. And she goes over, Sally, I didn't know you were going to be here. Yeah, I'm on the tennis. And in that moment, that's when the two ladies can say, you know what, why don't we go play golf sometime? Betsy might be like, well, I don't play golf. Sally will say, it's okay, we'll go out in the evening, no one's around. And you've bridged that gap, and you've given them the opportunity to maybe meet someone that's going to help them get out on the golf course. I've seen that work really well with twilights as well, where you hold a golf and tennis function, and then meet together for dinner afterwards. And then I put up blanks, because you can choose any activity that happens at your club and somehow link it to golf. You might have to think outside the box a little bit, but off the top of my head, let's say it's winter time, there's a women's paddle practice. You could say, okay, after your paddle practice today, let's do a 20-minute free introduction to golf, just in case this is your year and you're going to take up golf this year. So when we have the women already at the club, we try to make it useful. For our existing golfers, we sort of think outside the box a little bit. We've got all of these events that are already on our calendar. A lot of the ladies play in the WMGA match play. We all have club championships. We have twilights and parent-childs. So why don't we say, okay, let's have a match play strategies clinic. Now you're bringing in these ladies who are already proficient enough to go out and play on their own at different courses, but you're giving them a reason to come and take some sort of program with you. Okay, the two that I really like here would be a pre-twilight clinic and a parent-child prep clinic. I feel like in those situations, some of the women are sort of like peer pressured into playing, and so giving them a crash course before they go out on the course and crash is a really good idea. It might make them that much more comfortable. The final option you see there, we do this a lot, I think, in outings throughout our section. We'll have a 1 o'clock shotgun, people from Morgan Stanley go out there, and then we might hold a 3 p.m. clinic for anyone who wasn't comfortable actually playing those 18 holes. Certainly can do the same with the women's golf as well. Okay. Fourth cornerstone, forward thinking. I like this one. So I think of this sort of like a math problem. We've got these factors or these challenges that are working against golfers in general and in particular women. So the first two are pretty simple. Time, okay? We've all adjusted for time. Instead of making our clinics 4 hours long, like an 18-hole golf, we make them an hour long. All right, so it's very simple. Something that I'd add in there about time is when you do have the ladies there, make it as valuable as you can. So let's say they are beginners, and let's say you're doing putting or chipping. And you're on the practice screen, and you're learning how to hold the club, the basic motion, all these types of things. If your range is adjacent to any of the holes at your club, and you're like, okay, that tee box is open, it does not hurt in the least to take the ladies and say, all right, let's go do the same thing, and we're going to do it on the 9th green. We're going to do this on the course. For us, it seems like apples and apples, right? What's the difference? It's still a chipping motion. I feel like for them, it means a world of difference. Because now they've not only chipped the ball, but they've chipped the ball on the course. And we're starting to bridge that gap between the range and the course. And these things just make them more and more comfortable. Okay? So the theme here, like, let's change the equation until that factor or that challenge fits in without being that big of an issue. So another simple one is work. I think on our club calendars, we account for work all the time. We have the club championships on weekends. We've got the men's member on a weekend. Certainly can do the same thing with our women's golf. In the summer, when it's light out till 8, 9 p.m., something I've done is hold what I call a 6 at 6. We were supposed to play 6 holes at 6 o'clock. The group that it occurred with, we never actually played 6 holes. It's more like 2, maybe 3 at the most. But what it was is a group of working women who knew that every Wednesday they were going to meet up and be able to at least enjoy the club that they belong to and get out on the golf course. I also view that as a really good way to take any of the beginning golfers in the spring and say, okay, here's your chance to be in a really non-intimidating environment. Let's go out at 6 p.m. Barely anyone is around, and we'll go introduce you to the course. The next factor I really like. So I feel like junior golf is a hidden opportunity for women's golf. I feel like it could be a gold mine, and this is what I mean. So if we know that Johnny has to be dropped off for junior golf at 9 a.m., someone has to drop him off. And in this area, we have a few challenges, because we've got parents who drop their kids off, we've got nannies, and we've got drivers. Okay, so we don't always have the parent dropping the child off, but I feel like if we could correlate and make some sort of program that encourages the parent to be there, that they just might be. So why not hold a clinic for the moms after they drop Johnny off at junior golf? It doesn't have to last the entire time that Johnny will be there, but it gives them a reason to be at the club. Okay. Same can be said, I have up here junior testing and in parentheses in the evening. A club I once worked at, we did junior testing in the evening. We measured their skills for all these certain things like putting, sand, all this stuff. And I noticed that the parents were on the outskirts. And they went to the terrace, they got their drinks, and they were talking to each other, but they were there. So if we've got them at the club, maybe we give them an opportunity to pick up golf as well. And say, okay, while your kids are going through this junior testing, any interested parents who may or may not have played golf before, we're going to hold a very basic class for you too. And I am aware of this. This does start to get into some staffing requirements because obviously we only have a certain amount of people to do a certain amount of things with. But if it fits, this could be a good idea. Another thing you'll see up there, take advantage of holidays. What about Father's Day? What does every dad want to do on Father's Day? Probably want to go golfing. Okay? And usually the rest of the family spends the day at the club in some sort of capacity, mostly at the pool or whatnot. But why don't we say, okay, your family's going to be at the club anyway, let's hold a women's clinic. Now, the wife is saying, honey, I think you should go play golf on Father's Day because I've got this clinic at the club. So it's a dream come true, right? So the theme here again is just change that equation until this challenge becomes less of one. Social. As we spoke about social already, it's really important for women. I have something circled here. I don't know if you can read it. I'm really sorry. It says, if you and your friends have a different time during the week that is convenient, feel free to schedule those small groups with Sarah. So we all send out these clinic flyers. They go through our mass email, and we always get that response from Mrs. Haverkamp, and she's like, Sarah, I'm so sorry. Wednesday morning is book club. This was going to be my year, but I won't make it to the clinics. And I get it saddens me that we're going to miss out on that person. So why don't we say, okay, why don't you and your friends come up with a convenient time for you? Tell me when that is, and we cater to that. So last year, I had a couple of these small groups. Like one was Tuesday at 2 p.m., one was Friday at 9 a.m. And what I learned was, when these ladies make these groups together, they actually spend the whole day together. So I got this email once, it was like right before the 2 o'clock clinic was supposed to start. And it said, Sarah, I'm so sorry, we're all coming from the city, we were at the museum, and we got stuck after lunch. So I'm like, no worries, take your time. But in my mind, I'm like, oh my gosh, they spent the whole day together. And we're weaving golf into their day. So it's not this big hurdle that they have to overcome. They're like, okay, we're going to the museum, we're going to lunch, we're going to golf, and then whatever they do after that. So if your schedule allows for flexibility, totally encourage that. You can add in that sentence there. In my experience, it's gone a long way. So final factor, money. We've got a lot of things that compete for all of our money, right? Women like to shop. They go to SoulCycle. They've got personal trainers. They've got families. So they have many, many different things. I'll stop that. There we go. Okay. They've got many, many things that they can spend their money on. And you certainly know your clubs better than I do. But I say this sort of on 2 fronts. So first, we obviously have to be price conscientious. Secondly, though, in this section, as we all know, price is not always as big of an issue as it is in other places of the country. So I personally haven't done this, but I have heard of a women's clinic where each participant was actually charged for a 1-hour lesson, each. Okay, so you can do the math. I personally didn't feel like that was appropriate, but I've heard of it, it was successful, and it worked, and no one said a word. So the point here is, if we can make these programs that ladies like to come to, they obviously can be helpful for us and helpful to our clubs. Okay, so like anything, any of the tournaments we run, any of the programs that we do, a simple business cycle sort of review is important. It's a good way to monitor any progress. It's a good way to address any feedback. And I won't go through all these points here. You can see them. But my challenge for myself and for all of us is to not let an unsuccessful program just go. So maybe we try to hold something and nobody shows up. And it's so easy to say, well, the women are too busy. Or the women, they just don't play golf here. It's so easy to say that. But take a look at the different avenues and see, like we talked about earlier, see if we can change some of the equation to make it fit in better, okay? And something that I'll actually sort of leave you all with, when I was going through this the last week or so, it hit me like a ton of bricks in the face all of a sudden. I said, oh my goodness, we're catering to junior golf. We make these junior camps during the summer and on the weekends when the kids don't have school. We're catering to women's golf because we know how valuable the demographic they are. We went through that. What about the men at your clubs that aren't playing? And at first, everyone's like, no, everyone plays. The men play. But then there's those moments when you go through the directory and you're calling Mr. Jones and you see the name above Mr. Jones. And it's a name like you don't even know. And you're like, oh yeah, this guy never even uses the club. He must be, a non-resident. And he certainly could have joined for social reasons. or he is a non-resident. But my challenge to myself this year, and when I thought about this, I'm like, that there's a demographic of men who also are not comfortable playing golf. So how can we get them in the course? Kevin will obviously speak a little bit more about some of his current programs for adults and go through some of the pricing things and more of the planning. But those are 2 challenges that I have for you all. Is don't give up on the women's program, because we've all seen that success story. We've all seen that lady who shows up for that clinic 1 year, doesn't even know how to carry her bag, and 3 years later, she's running the 9-hole. And we've seen that happen. It's possible. And then the second challenge is just be aware of maybe the men or other demographics at your club that might also be a little intimidated to play golf. Okay, so closing thoughts. Today we spoke mostly on the Caterpillar on the left. These like new beginning golfers. I just a lot of ground level work. Like any person who gets to know the game of golf, their needs are going to change over time. So you're going to have that group of social ladies at the clinic. And then a year later, that same lady's going to say, Sarah, I need a 1-hour lesson. I really want to work on my hybrid. So she's transitioned from being a social golfer to one that has her own goals. So just say, be aware of that. You know, it's like your junior golfer who hits water balloons one summer and loves it. And then the next summer, he's like, okay, I want to do the dry chicken putt. So his goals have also changed. So just to summarize, we did more of the groundwork today. People evolve over time. And Kevin will talk to you a bit more about programs they can do as they become golfers. That's all I have today. Do we have some questions or any discussion points? I think we have plenty of time.
Have you ever thought about introducing like a mommy and me golf class?
That's a great idea.
Like for the stay-at-home moms that might have a child that's in preschool, but they go to preschool for just part of the day, so they're done by a little before noon.
Right.
And if you have like snag equipment, you can teach the mom and the child at the same time, like a 4-year-old, 5-year-old.
Bingo. All right, write that one down. That's a good one. Thank you. Thanks.
Have you ever thinking about this season doing a parent-child plan?
Yes.
You know, whoever, mom, dad, however many kids. Have you tried that, and has it been successful?
So I personally haven't. Kevin's going to touch on that, I believe. As you saw a few slides back, my thought was more hold a clinic for the parent who may not have played a lot of golf before they have to go play in your parent-child events. Certainly, give it a shot. Kevin's going to talk on that. I think you want to talk that?
I'll just jump in there. We've tried that years ago at my club, and as you can be aware of, when the parent is watching the child, the parent starts teaching the child. So it's hard, unless you can separate them. I haven't had any success doing it, so we tried it that 1 year and it stopped. Because the parents got too involved in what the kids were doing. Some of it was our fault because we couldn't separate them enough. So if you could put the parents and the kids in 2 different areas. Some of the parents that for some kids it was good because their parents were watching and they focused a little bit more. But I think it was too much of a distraction for the parents. And then for me as a teacher, I'm worried about, is the parent worrying about them or are they worrying about their kids? And it's a little hard for us. But it's not that you can't do it, but you have to be careful with that dynamic with the both.
Thanks.
It certainly doesn't rule it out. And if you can separate it, then bingo, you've got them both there.
Yeah.
Thank you. Hopefully you have some ideas. Let me know what you think. I'd be happy to discuss any programs I've done in further detail, but just wanted to give a little ground level thought process there today.